So it's kind of like messing with your mind or something. I mean, what else is it supposed to be? And at that point, I was like, how does Corinne, who knows Stephanie, my friend from junior high, how does Corinne, this Canadian, French-Canadian woman, know Stephanie and get to be best friends with Stephanie, and she also somehow knows Krista Schneider, who is in a totally different state and who's been basically spying on me for a law firm. Well, my guess is that it has something to do with Dick Whittemore, because he's the one with the French connection. And Krista definitely knew him because Dick was good friends with and had dated her friend's mother. So when Krista was, Corinne knew the Middletons. Their family knew the Middletons. So when Corinne, when Krista Schneider is taking me out for lavender martinis with her friend who knows Dick Whittemore, the lavender martinis was significant because that has something to do with the Middleton family specifically in the United Kingdom. And anyone can look that up. Look up lavender martini. And it's something that specifically has history with, I don't mean the lavender martini, just the drink. I mean lavender martini as a term, as a terminology, as a description for something that involves the Middletons. So here I have no clue. All this time, I mean, I didn't know for years later who Middleton even was. But they knew me. And a lot of people knew me, and I'm being tortured, and my son's being tortured partly for somebody who's involved from a totally different country. And, I just wondered then, I had my jacket and things being stolen from me after I got back from the East Coast in about 1994. And so I would say that my son had a lot of fun with this one boy that played with him. And I felt very humiliated a lot of the time. Then we went out to dinner, and everybody thought that I didn't know what paella was. It was like anything that was just not a hamburger or a hot dog. People assumed that I was too stupid to know what it was, or just not sophisticated or educated enough. And it was really heartbreaking. I didn't cry at all when I was there. I was very composed, kept myself together, and then when I got home, I burst into tears and I sobbed. Joy drove me back home, and she kind of harassed me and yelled at me the whole way. She accused me of lying to her about driver's license or driver's insurance, something like that. So she's screaming at me the whole way home. And I thought, what is wrong with these people? What's wrong with her? I mean, why would she be nice on the way over? And then all of a sudden she's a flame with rage on the way back. And I found out that Pamp, this little boy that I'd known ever since I was, a teenager, he'd married a Catholic woman as well, who probably got close to him and wanted him to notice her in the same way that, at some point, because of family money, is the only thing I can think of. And I talked to Krista about that as well. So Krista and Corinne knew each other. Or they found people that they knew that knew each other. And the next thing that happened was then I was back in Wenatchee, Washington, and I was calling my parents on the phone and sobbing. I was so humiliated. It was really, I was humiliated and then kind of shocked. I did not, actually know about any, I didn't understand any of the connections with Corinne, and all I knew is she knows Krista. I didn't really put together the rest of it at that time. I just thought that they were being really weird. And so then, turns out Corinne had come over from New York because that's where she and her family were living now. And somebody in their family had married a Whittemore. Just like Dick Whittemore. And New York. New York FBI, in fact. I mean, this is just like, does anybody understand that the nightmare that my family has been living? This is not even, it's so wild and out there and incredibly connected and interconnected and unbelievable. It's how does anybody even grasp and put their mind around all of these different horrible things that have been done to us and all these people that have colluded against us, and then they torture us. So then my son and I were back on Methow, and Krista was asking how I wanted to die. That's what every very good friend wants to know. How would you least like to die? I know that for a fact. I've never asked any of my friends, no matter how good of a friend they are, I have never asked them that question. Ever. I maybe had a philosophical conversation one time about would it be worse to be drowned or burned? And that was maybe with like a family member. But I would never ask somebody something like that. I mean, it's just, death is not foremost in my mind. And asking someone how they would least like to die is definitely not something that comes to mind when I'm talking to a friend. So that came up, then my son and I were tortured. And everything went, I think that she knew that I knew that she wanted to make a point of having me know that she knew Stephanie, and then they just wanted to blow it up. They knew I was going to be tortured. They didn't care. Next step was to make me sound really crazy. Because how could I describe how my son and I were being tortured? So then, you know, I went through this whole process of having people use CPS against me, causing distress, trying to get me to move out of the state. It's possible that they had already made that offer of having me move out of the state by that time. And then it was full-blown torture. And then Krista and I never talked again after that. I never once had an email from her or a conversation. And then my son and I were in East Wenatchee. All of those other forms of torture were being done against us. And the next thing that was happening was, and you know, John Camp he was more like connected to Germans because he was German. But you know, I don't have anything against all the Germans. I've got very close to German in my family, and German friends and friends who speak German. But there were a few people who were German that didn't like me. It might have been connected to John Camp, who was an associate, who was also working with Dick Whittemore with this legal thing. But it's just way more interconnected than that, because there was Jewish people working with them as well. And then you've got some Mormons who are doing business with people that have raped me. So, you know, who do you exactly turn to when they're all mixed up? And none of these people who knew what was going on wanted to step forward for my son and for and stand up against the torture of a child. So anyone, maybe just a few who tried, I am very deeply grateful, and probably maybe they didn't get very far with what they wanted to do or tried to do, but I'm I'm sure that only God knows. And I would say that those people really, I hope that they are blessed and their families are blessed in some way. Because a lot of people have known about torture and they've not said anything or done anything. So anyone who has been a serious exception to the rule and remarkable in my mind. The next thing that happened was the torture was escalated against me and my son. I continue to have people, after I tried to have police look into constant false allegations and reports going to CPS, I really begged police to do something because it was harassment, it was causing an incredible amount of stress, and it was affecting, they were going to take my son from me. It was harassment. It was affecting my life and my son's life. And when police refused to do that, there was evidence to support it, that on one occasion I could catch someone making a false claim. And the doctor involved was Dr. Parnell. And then there was a nurse who made the false report to CPS. I thought that it was Dr. Parnell who did. But the report said it was a nurse, and whether he asked her to or she did it for him or they did it kind of together, I don't know. But this false claim went to to CPS that I had shown up at the emergency room without my son. And where was my son? My son was always with me, and if for some reason he hadn't been with me, he would have been with the babysitter, so I wouldn't even question that. But he was with me, and they knew that he was. So I asked police to please review the video cameras at the hospital and please investigate, because I was being harassed with this, and I didn't realize, why would the police help me when the police helped a rapist in their town to rape me? I mean, they knew that I was over the limits and incapacitated when their Italian-American doctor friend raped me and showed up right after they were there and knew that I was incapacitated. So exactly how far is the police department going to be working for me when, let's see, Nancy Harmon's husband is a cop there, Stacy Stubblefield's husband is a cop, Tina Thornton's husband is a cop, and there were cops involved who arrested me as a favor to people over in Portland who told me that I was known from one state to the next, and for the FBI to keep me from making a report. And then let's say then there were cops that were pulling me over all the time to see if I had expired driving insurance. And then there was a cop that and then there were the cops that set me up with this rape, and then the cops that was at the barbecue when I was being assaulted when I was 7 months pregnant with my son, with the army guy. So, which officer exactly is going to be assisting me? Oh, and then they refused to process a rape kit after they set me up to be raped by an Italian-American doctor in the town. That is not just not doing your duty, that's state-sponsored rape. That is law enforcement premeditating and setting me up for rape, knowing that I'm incapacitated after I'd already been raped how many times. So, were the police really going to help me and my son when false accusations were being made about me? No, they didn't. And after they refused to help us, I started doing more research, and my research activities were being monitored by untold numbers of groups, individuals. When I first showed up in Wenatchee, a man who worked at a computer place hooked up my computer to his computer at his house. Later found out that he worked with law enforcement.